Dan Illman and Mike Beer. The race preceding the Kentucky Oaks on Friday features some of the fastest turf sprinters in the world. It's race number 10, going 5.5 furlongs on the green. Let's take a look at the field for the Grade 2 Turf Sprint. $250,000 is the purse. And Mike, we have to begin our analysis with the number 6 World of Trouble, who, when last seen on the turf, ran one of the fastest races in history without winning on the Spires scale. Ran a 1:18 Spires speed figure and lost by a neck to two-time Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint winner Stormy Liberal. Since then, he has been unstoppable on dirt, and the pace scenario might favor him in this race.
Yeah, it might. I mean, listen, there are a lot of ways to look at this horse as just weigh the horse to beat, whether the pace scenario favors him or not. He has run nothing but good races from day one. And, you know, I don't know about you, Dan, I was a little surprised when they decided to make him a turf horse last summer at Saratoga. Obviously, he handles turf very well. All 3 of his turf sprints are excellent performances. And then they just went back to dirt with him, maybe a little bit out of necessity. But when they went to that Grade 1 Carter, he got a Grade 1 win. You know, he's back on turf now. It doesn't seem to matter what surface you run him over. He's just a really fast horse and a really good horse, and he's way the horse to beat in here.
And it probably wasn't the best Carter handicap of all time last time out, and certainly not the fastest paced race, but it was nice to see that he at least could sit off another horse if necessary. I don't think that's going to be the plan for Manny Franco on Friday, and neither does Timeform US as we take a peek at the pace projector. It's a blue bar scenario which favors horses on or near the early lead, and World of Trouble, the number 6, is expected to make the lead, but he might have it tough with the 1 Bound for Nowhere, the horse he's going to have to beat in closest attendance. Bound for Nowhere looked so good winning the Shakertown during the spring of 2018. He went to Royal Ascot and he ran great in the Group 1 Diamond Jubilee, and then he came back off a long layoff. Just consider this travel only in a span of a few months, and then he won the Tourist Mile at a distance that's probably a little bit far for him. Listen, the Shadwell Turf Mile, they took a shot. It didn't work out. I liked that Wesley Ward gave him a lot of time. He brought him back in the Shakertown. He finished ahead of 4 of these common foes, and it took a very good turf sprinter to nail him.
I mean, he ran a really good race last time. It's just unfortunate for him that Imprimis ran right out of his skin and came and ran him down late. But that's a real, I don't know where Imprimis is. I don't know why he's not in here. But he ran unbelievable in that race. This horse ran really well, too. All of his turf sprints, you know, you can include the Diamond Jubilee if you want. They sent him to France and England as a 3-year-old as well, but all of his stateside turf sprints are really strong performances. I almost put him on top 10. I don't think it really matters as far as top pick goes. I'm using both these horses, the 1 and the 6 in this race.
Does he have the speed to wrest the early lead away from World of Trouble? And if he does, is that the option Irad Ortiz takes? Or does he figure, listen, maybe I'll let that horse clear, get to the outside?
Yeah, I mean, I guess they could do it either way. Obviously, being drawn to the hedge, he's got to come out of that running. He has to. So I would, you know, Irad should just send him, and if he winds up on the lead, I think they would be pretty happy with that. World of Trouble, you know, he's a really fast horse, but they showed last time in the Carter that they're perfectly willing to sit off another horse because they did not have to rate this horse last time. That pace was not fast, and they decided to rate anyway. They do that, and Bound for Nowhere gets to the front here, we have a horse race.
Perhaps the turf debut for the 2 Mr. Crow, who I believe is cross-entered at Churchill Downs on Saturday in a dirt race. The Sire Tapas are only 7% winners with first-time turf runners. The Dam went 0 for 2 on the turf. The Dam at least is a half the sharp impact to win the Lexington, a Grade 3 stakes winner on the turf. I think Mr. Crow is a useful horse. I think this is a really tough spot to return off about a 6.5-month layoff.
Yeah, not only is it his turf debut, you just don't know if he's going to, you know, be as good on this surface, but he's doing it off a layoff too against these 2 horses. This is a tough spot.
Let's talk a little bit about the winner of this race last year, and that is the number 9, Will Call. And Will Call won this race last year, making his 2nd start of the form cycle after sort of a dull effort behind Bound for Nowhere in the Shakertown. Well, Brad Cox is going to try to utilize that same pattern. He ran a little better in this year's Shakertown, finishing behind Bound for Nowhere, but it's possible he was just using that race as a prep for this one. The problem is, if there's no pace, Will Cole's in big trouble because he doesn't have any early speed.
Yeah, he doesn't. He hasn't been showing any speed at all lately. That works against him in a race like this, especially when you consider the 2 horses that are likely to be in front of him. You know, as good as Will Call is, they're probably both better than he is, so it makes things really hard for him. He's a real hard-trying horse. I like those things about him. You know, I can't say I'm a huge fan of his, Dan, but if he gets the right setup, if those two favorites decide they both want the lead and they hook up, I guess it sets up right for this horse.
Undrafted, is 9 years old and still kicking, banking $1.5 million in his career. He was second in this race in both 2014 and 2015. And give him a good pace scenario, and he'll come kicking, as he showed there was still life in the old boy last time out on November the 22nd, where he beat a decent runner, an extravagant kid, a horse that came back to run second in a stake at Gulfstream with a 97 Buyer speed figure. Same issue, though, with Will Call. If there's no pace, he's in trouble.
Yeah, it's all about pace for this horse. He needs them to go all out in front of him, and then he can come running at the end. You know, he's not as good as he once was, but he showed he could still win last time. It is worth noting that even though they still, try him in these stakes races, his last 3 wins have all come in allowance races. That's more the kind of horse he is now, but what a cool horse he is.
I think Chaos Theory has some upside potential. Might be able to sneak into your single race exotics at a price. Had a mini 2-race win streak, snapped last time out in the Shakertown, but was really behind the 8 ball after the post position draw. Drew a lousy post 12, really had to come from farther out of it than usual. Made a little bit of ground late. He can be closer to the pace, but like some of these others, it's not like he's really a tracker. He is more of a mid-pack to closer.
Yeah. He's a horse who I think just wants to sit back and make one run, so he needs a big pace in front of him. He's got a little upside, too. This horse I don't think is done improving yet, and his last 3 races on the turf, they're all good.
Smart Remark finished 6th in his most recent turf race, but that race produced 3 next out winners. The runner, Vision Perfect, came back to win with a 106 Buyer. The runner-up came back to win with a 90 Buyer speed figure. This horse only 1 for 6 lifetime on the turf. Victoria Oliver's a very good trainer, but I think that she's still trying to figure out where exactly this horse fits. Dirt, turf, route, sprint.
He can do a lot of things pretty well. I don't think he does anything all that great, so he's just going to need to get the right trip in this race and maybe hope a couple of horses don't show up with their best race. He's a pretty good horse, though.
As was the case with Will Call, perhaps Jazzy Times used the Shakertown as a means to this end. It was his first start off a lengthy layoff, and he broke from the inside post, and he kind of just ran around the track that day. I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt for that effort. And once they put him on the turf last year, Wes Hawley's done a really good job with some claims. Hawakam, he turned into a graded stakes horse, and Jazzy Times, a $25,000 claimer, he's turned into a stakes winner. Maybe turf is what he's wanted all along, and you can give him an excuse for that last race.
Yeah, it was pretty smart for them to switch him over to turf, too, because he's just one of those horses who was going nowhere on the main track. They switched him to turf, and they found his calling, at least for now. His first 2 races were good. I don't think they're good enough to beat this field, but they were good on turf, and I'm with you last time. I think they were trying to get him to this race.
Anguston ran pretty well off the layoff in the Shakertown last time out. Considering he had a lousy post position, considering the layoff, I thought he ran quite fine. It was a career best Buyer speed figure performance, or almost up to that level. He's run well at Churchill Downs in the past, and of the sort of mid-pack horses, he at least is the horse that can sit 3rd or 4th in here. If the 1 and the 6 get busy hooking up, he'll at least get the jump on the true closers.
He will get the jump on the closers. He's run a bunch of good races since they decided he's a turf sprinter as well. They did the right thing by this horse. Another horse he's really good. He's facing 2 top turf sprinters in here. It makes him really hard, but he could get the right trip in this race.
Take a look at our top selections for the turf sprint, race number 10 at Churchill Downs on Kentucky Oaks Friday. Both going with World of Trouble. He's just been good on turf. He's just been good on dirt. He should get the right pace scenario, whether it's on the lead or sitting just off it, but I can't imagine them letting Bound for Nowhere bound away to an easy early lead, but he's way the horse to beat. But you would use the 6 and the 1.
I'm using the 6 and the 1. I put the 5 third, just because I think he'll be running at the end, and I think he's got upside, but it's a distant third. These 2 horses are way the horses to beat.
6 and 1 are the ones Mike's are using in the multiple race wager. 6159 his pick, 6158 for me in the grade 2 turf sprint. Race number 10 at Churchill Downs on Friday is an approximate post of 5:04 Eastern. Best of luck.